What were your expectations prior to the match against Wales for the United States?
Dan, that's an interesting question because I think naturally my expectations before England beat Iran 6-2 was the United States has to beat Wales in order to advance out of the group. Then when that result happened, even more so, it was vital that they had to get 3 points. And here's the reason why. Ultimately, you do not want to play Iran in the final game for geopolitical reasons, as one of those reasons of needing to get 3 points to get out of the group. And the reason why is that's going to be the biggest game in Iran's history. They list now in their history as a federation 1998, the World Cup game against the United States in France, where they won 1-0, as the biggest victory of their history. So you wanted to avoid that. And that's why I think ultimately, when you take 24 hours and you reflect on the Wales game, it feels like a loss, even though it wasn't.
How do you explain what happened yesterday for Team USA?
You explain it to the sports fan that is not an avid soccer fan. It was a tale of two halves. The first half, Greg Berhalter with his starting lineup and the first half performance, A+. No doubt about it. Arguably the best performance since he's been a manager. But here's the difference of what happened in the second half. Wales is a one-trick pony, and that pony is a 6'5" center forward by the name of Kiefer Moore. They didn't start him. And so you knew if they were going to go down a goal, he's immediately coming off the bench. Dan, they didn't have plan B. They didn't have an idea on how to counter Kiefer Moore coming off the bench. And that, I think, is the most disappointing aspect of the game, is that tactically they didn't make an adjustment. But more so, I think the substitutions and the personnel coming out at halftime with Weston McKennie battling an injury, Serginho Dest and McKennie both on yellows. Dan, Greg Berhalter in the United States, they didn't do anything. They kind of sat on the fence, and that's kind of what you experienced in the second half.
What do you expect on Friday against England?
I expect the entire world to see and expect England to dominate. And this is where the United States, often on the men's side, play at their best when they're a complete underdog. Now, Vegas is not going to have them as huge underdogs, but you and I know what the storylines are going to be. England is always had a chip on their shoulder for making sure that the United States in this sport particular feel like the stepchild. The Americans love the English accent. They love what England does. They want to be England in this sport. There's just so many undertones of what is going to happen. And that is not even on the field, where I think England has more talent. But the United States on the men's side always thrive in the underdog. They've got to find a way to get a result. And by saying that, I mean, even if it's losing by just one goal, because goal differential now with the 6-2 victory of the English had over Iran now becomes the tiebreaker. You just can't lose the game by a lot if you are going to lose the game. I think they should get a draw, if you ask me right now.
What's your level of confidence, 1 to 10, with the United States?
6, maybe 6.5. It's not extremely confident because they're young. This is their first experience. I think it's extremely important, Dan, when you look at the future of where this team's going to go, and this being the quote-unquote golden generation of players. The United States is hosting the World Cup in 2026. This will be the first time the United States men have their best generation of players ever developed, barely in their prime, and they're going to be playing at home. So you want to have a positive experience at this World Cup. You don't want to bomb out of the World Cup. You don't want to do what you did in 1998. But I'm also not saying they desperately need to get to the quarterfinals either. They've got to have a positive result and a positive experience. That could come Black Friday against England. But I'm just not totally confident that this team at the highest of levels can score goals, because quite honestly, with how the first half went yesterday, they should have had 2 or 3 goals, and they didn't create enough quality chances.
Yeah, I wondered if this team, it's just not their time, but get that experience. Yeah, you look down through history with teams that win championships. They usually have to go through that losing period. You know, the Chicago Bulls with the Pistons with the Celtics in basketball terminology. And I wondered if maybe we're too young at this moment. Christian Pulisic, how much pressure is on him in this?
And exactly, Dan, you're hitting the nail on the head, because Christian was he was the young buck on the 2018 qualifying team that failed to qualify for the World Cup. So he's already kind of shaped his national team experience with negative experiences. And that's why for this group, with Pulisic being the head of the snake, so to speak, you need to have some positive experience. Christian was okay yesterday. I thought he was fantastic on the goal. We saw Christian of old, but then we've also saw some really bad set piece delivery, some key moments where the final ball wasn't there. That's why my confidence, go back to your initial question of where my confidence level is. In the final third, at the critical moments, the United States just hasn't showed enough quality to against a higher quality competition. Until they do so, my confidence level is going to remain 6.5. And mainly that's because Pulisic needs to play at the highest of levels to get there.